Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my latest video. And in this week's video, I'm going to talk about a boxer I really enjoy watching and a big fan of, which is Keith one-time Thurman. If you're not familiar with Keith Thurman, he's 22-0, 20 KOs, and calls out everybody in the welterweight division. Some names he's called out are Sean Porter, Paulie Malignaggi, Adrian Broner, Marcos Maidana. If you have a title in the welterweight division, expect for Keith Thurman to call you out. He's a very old school fighter in that regard. He doesn't care about his zero. He cares about his legacy. Wants to put on exciting fights for the fans. Wants the titles. And wants to be remembered as a guy who fought everybody. And in my opinion, he gets that old school mentality from his former trainer and mentor, Ben Getty. Ben Getty, at a young age, got Keith Thurman in the sport of boxing. Unfortunately, a few years ago, Ben Getty passed away. But before he passed, he had told Keith Thurman that one day he will be a world champion and that nobody could stop him with his power. And Keith Thurman has stated in interviews how much Ben Getty has meant to him as a person and in boxing. Ben Getty gave him that confidence in himself and his skills. And Keith Thurman always pays tribute to Ben Getty. In his last fight with Jesus Soto Karass, he had Ben Getty's name on his trunks. So Ben Getty definitely was a very big aspect of the career of Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman says he honors him every time he steps in between those ropes. So Ben Getty, just a great trainer and a great mentor to Keith Thurman. And that's why we see Keith Thurman where he is today, in my opinion. Getting into the career of Keith Thurman, he has such victories over Carlos Quintana, former champion, and Diego Chavez, a tough Argentinian fighter who had tons of power. And I felt that people overlooked that win by Keith Thurman because this guy can hit hard and was a tough fighter. He wasn't that well known in America, but Keith Thurman just had a very impressive performance against him and took some great shots from him, because I see people questioning Keith Thurman's chin on the internet. And I thought that was an excellent fight for Keith Thurman. Very impressed by that victory he had. And basically in his last fight, he fought Jesus Soto Karass, a tough fighter. First round of the fight, Keith Thurman gets rocked. Doesn't go down. He keeps on fighting. Dominates a fight and ends up stopping Jesus Soto Karass in the late rounds of the fight. And when I watch Keith Thurman, a lot of people underestimate him, in my opinion. They look at Keith Thurman and say he's just strictly an offensive fighter. In my opinion, he's much more than that. He's a guy that, yes, can be an offensive fighter and can brawl with you and get into wars, but can also box and move around the ring. I really thought in the Jesus Soto Karass fight, he threw some great uppercuts, had some excellent jabs, and he improves every fight. And also, he carries his power into the later rounds. A lot of fighters you see, they can throw big power shots, say for the first 6 rounds, then they're gassed for the rest of the fight. Keith Thurman is not like that. He can throw bombs, and his name is one time for a reason. He hits you with one punch, one power punch, and you could be on the floor. And he also mixes up to the body. You've seen Keith Thurman, if you watch his fights, drop fighters with body shots before. So I'm very impressed with Keith Thurman. He's also a very intelligent fighter. If you ever have seen him break down fights, he did a great job of breaking down how he'd fight Floyd Mayweather. Also, the Marcos Maidana and Adrian Broner fight, how that fight would go, and how Floyd Mayweather ended up fighting Marcos Maidana. He called all these things. So he's a very intelligent guy, and a guy that really I can't wait to see fight some bigger names in 2014. It's going to be hard for him to get these fights because he is one of the most ducked fighters in the sport of boxing. 2 guys that I can name that in the past have ducked him. One was Robert Guerrero, who passed on a fight with him. And Marcos Maidana was scheduled to fight him and pulled out of the fight. And yes, I understand it is a business. And these fighters, some of them don't want to take a loss because obviously it hurts their ability to draw in their career. But also as a fan, we lose out on some great matchups when that occurs. who would have never liked to see a fight between Keith Thurman and Marcos Maidana? That would have been excellent. So definitely, I understand where these guys are coming from, Guerrero and Maidana. And you look at Maidana now; he's fighting Floyd Mayweather. So I definitely understand. It just sucks for the fans when we don't get to see the matchups we want. But that's a sport of boxing; it happens. And also look for maybe in a few years to see Keith Thurman fighting Floyd Mayweather. If everything goes planned for Keith Thurman, Al Heyman represents Keith Thurman. So Al Heyman, as we know, very powerful in the boxing world. That could happen in a few years. And it sounds like Keith Thurman is going to be back in the ring basically April 26th on the same card as Lucas Matisse. So if you're a boxing fan, that's wow. That's two big punchers on the same card. Can't miss that. Let me know what you guys think about Keith Thurman. Who you want to see him fight. I'd like to see him fight any of the big names at 147. It's stock division. So there's lots of names to choose from. And definitely check out his next fight, guys. This guy is very fan-friendly, interacts with the fans. And you can't miss his fight, no matter who he's fighting. Even if it's not the name we want, you can't miss it. And appreciate you guys checking out the video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed it. And thank you once again.